Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking about episode 5 of Vinland Saga, The Troll's Son. Before we get started, though, I want to give a shout out to my boy Longshot0110 over on Twitter. Thank you for sharing last week's Vinland Saga video, and if you too would like to get yourself a shout out in next week's Vinland Saga video, then be sure to share the video around on the internet and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will shout you out right here in next week's video. But enough of that promotion game. Let's go ahead and talk about Vinland Saga, and I have thoughts on this one. You might say I have deep thoughts on this one. Vinland Saga is, it's still between Vinland Saga, Given, and Fire Force for me. But this episode, it's not my favorite episode. I still think my favorite episode is episode 1, just because it's like such a wild introduction to the show. But this episode 5, does further cement the fact that this really does feel like anime of the season. You know how it has, like, you can just tell, like, certain anime that just connect with you, and Vinland Saga connects with me, mainly because it's funny, because it has a lot of, like, you know, it has the swords, it has, like, the sweeping scenery, it has all the feel of a fantasy series, but without the actual fantasy to it. It's set in our world. It's kind of. It's very clearly like analogs to our world. Obviously, you have characters like Leif Erikson, who is actually a person, and Thorfinn, who is kind of inspired by another Thorfinn. It's a fictionalized version of Karl Sefni, but it is Thorfinn. Like, it's technically the same dude. So it has all these hallmarks of a fantasy series, yet set in our world. And something about it just really clicks with me. It's impressive in a way that I don't think many other series this year have. I don't want to say this have been, but it just feels different. I guess the closest comparison I can make isn't even to an anime. I'd say it's a lot like Vikings, but obviously they're two different genres, but they are very similar. But you know what Vinland Saga has over Vikings? The story's better, but also it's an anime, which means I like it 10 times more because of the visuals, namely Humber River. Humber River, which is going to be difficult for me to say because I can't do words good, but Humber River has a refreshingly autumnish sort of feel to it, which is very different to the scenery that we've been getting on the show. The scenery that we've been getting is very wintry themed, which is my second favorite season. But my favorite season is autumn. So seeing Humber Village like covered with these autumn leaves, it was such a refreshing change of pace, and I feel like that was, the idea. The fact that we've been seeing like sort of winterscapes for most of the show, and then we saw like kind of the only other scenery we've really seen is like a couple clips here and there to like England. But we saw that one village, but all we really saw was like water and then cliffside. That's all we really saw. So the autumn feel to Humber River was very refreshing. Also, it's just, how many times am I going to say this in videos about background art? It's, if you can nail your background art, you got a happy hobbit in me. And I am a happy hobbit. The background art is dope. But, much like everything else in the show and how I assume everything will go in the show, Thorfinn is not allowed to have nice things. And by connection, we are not allowed to have nice things, because the very next moment after seeing the beauty that is Humber River is seeing Askeladd and his friends burn it the hell down. Oh, and speaking of Askeladd, because I think I just said Askeladd, I'm gonna say whatever I feel like, because apparently nobody can figure out how to pronounce this guy's name. It is technically Askeladd, but it is also Askeladd, like I was saying last week, and like they say in the show. In the show, they say Askeladd. Everybody else apparently says Askeladd, but both are technically correct, so you're gonna hear me interchange them every so often. I don't know, it's a complicated name. Here's what I do know. Askeladd is an SOB, the likes of which I have nary seen, and he is easily my antagonist of the season. I friggin' adore Askeladd. I think because he's not cut and dry, but like bad. He's like he's not even really like good either. He's not good or bad or really anything in between. he is Askeladd. He is his own complicated dude. You know what I thought too? Because I've noticed this. There's a line from, and you guys are gonna hate this, but there's a line from Sherlock. I bring that show up a lot. I know. I'm sorry. It's like my favorite thing, except for the last scene. But anyway, there's a line from that show that says, "You look sad when you think people can't see you," and I know what that means. Looking sad when you think nobody can see you. And Askeladd, if you notice, like when he thinks nobody's looking, he's not happy or proud or even angry or anything like that. I don't know, he's like melancholic. He's got my face basically, where it's just like, are you sad? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm feeling. Like that's the vibe I get from Askeladd. I like almost like I don't want to say Saitama vibe, but this sort of like empty kind of vibe from him. Like he's not sure what he's feeling. Like, and I think he's looking for something. Like not like physically trying to find something. Like he ain't looking for the One Piece or anything. It's like he's trying to find purpose. That's the vibe I get from Askeladd. Maybe I'm reading this. Maybe I'm just reading the scenes wrong with him. But I don't know. The fact that I can have a varied opinion on just a facial reaction from a character really speaks volumes about the show. And the other thing that I think the show does well that nobody else seems to really be touching on is show, do not tell. Oh my god, I can't tell you how many anime I have seen lately where they tell you how everything works, they tell you how everybody feels, instead of, I don't know, using a visual medium to show how they are feeling without having to spell it out for me. And that's how I feel with Askeladd. It's better, in my opinion, to have like a pretty good idea of how they're feeling, but you're not really sure, because are you really sure how anybody's feeling ever? It's more fun when you don't super know. Show, don't tell leaves wiggle room for the audience to have a different view. Like every audience member will have a different view on a character like Askeladd. Or even just like show, don't tell, like watching Thorfinn grow over time. Like that's really cool. You don't have to have somebody say like, man, the kid's really been training hard. We know he's been training hard because you showed it. You showed Thorfinn killing animals in the forest. Now listen, I have a hard time watching animals get hurt. That's a me thing. I'm one of those unbelievable hippies who checks doesthedogdie.com before I watch a movie. I'm that sad, but I have a tricky time watching it. But that wolf is gonna kill my boy, so that wolf is gonna get it. And also, a man has to eat, so you know, Thorfinn had to kill the bunny. I get it, but like with me, it's like because I was like, oh, Thorfinn, you better prepare yourself. And then when the wolf made the whine, like the dog whining sound, I was like, oh, puppy. But like, you tried to kill my boy, so like you deserve it. But like, oh no. I know I'm a sad, sorry sap, and I make no excuses. I accept this about myself. You may make fun of me in the comments. Another thing I found interesting about the whole Askeladd, and in particular his relationship with Thorfinn, is this. I wrote down subtle guidance, but that's not quite. I wrote that down before Askeladd kicked the ever-loving hell out of Thorfinn. It's interesting, because if it wasn't for what Askeladd said, I don't know if Thorfinn would necessarily have thought about the fact that he can't use the sword, he's too small, you know, to defend himself from the wolf. So the idea that Askeladd had the common sense to tell him, like, if your sword is swinging you, that's probably not a good thing. And, you know, Thorfinn's like, okay, well, if I can't use the sword, I'll use the dagger my dad gave me. And that's what saves him. And eventually he comes back and he fights Askeladd again. And, I mean, he still loses. In fact, he loses hard. But he does better than he did the first time. So, you know, and I appreciated that Askeladd was like, tell you what, you're a Viking, ain't you? Go do something impressive. And then come back to me. And he's like, and of course Thorfinn's like, okay, and then I'm gonna kill you. And, yeah, I don't know. They're giving me of season 4, or no, actually no, wait, what season was it? It doesn't matter. They're giving me certain characters from Game of Thrones vibes, a certain tiny person and a certain big person. I think you know who I'm talking about. And I want to touch on this quickly before I run out of time, because it looks like I may or may not be running over time. I wanted to talk about Ylva? Ylva? I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm sure you'll yell at me about it again in the comments, but Ylva's reaction to everything was probably the most human reaction, because at first I was like, wow, what a jerk. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, that's how I react. Like, when I get sad or, like, really devastating news, I'm like, huh, okay. And then I just kind of walk, like, I'll walk away, and I won't, especially if it's, like, really devastating, I won't be prepared to process what I'm feeling. I need to, like, surround myself with those stuff. So I totally get what she was doing. She's like, well, he's already gone, so I mean, there's no sense whining about it. You'll just get hungry anyway. So like, you'll just starve if you cry too hard, you'll just make yourself hungry. So like, don't do it. Like, he's already gone, don't even worry about it. And she just gets to work being busy. And even her mom could tell what was happening and let her be busy for a little bit until eventually she did have to like face the fact of what happened. And I thought that was like really strong stuff. Also, I appreciate Leif's promise, because to me that says we ain't gonna see Leif for a while, which is disappointing because he's probably my favorite character. But the idea that he's like, I don't care how long it takes, I don't care if it takes years, I'm gonna find him and I'm gonna bring him home. And that tells me, oh, we ain't gonna see Leif for a while, because something tells me Thorfinn's I almost wonder if, because I thought this week we would see the voice actress swap out for the voice actor for Thorfinn, because I figured like he would have aged up by now, but he's still little Thorfinn. So I'm curious if he'll still be little Thorfinn next week, or if we'll see the grown-up version of Thorfinn we see in the OP and ED. And on that note, I think I got all my thoughts out. I can't really think of anything else I want to say about the episode other than I liked it. Like most episodes of Vinland Saga, I liked it. Overall, I would definitely give this episode a strong A. Like, I'm wondering if there's gonna be an episode that gets under an A, like that gets under an A- at least. Like, because we've had A- episodes from Vinland Saga before, but it's been 5 episodes and it hasn't dipped under a B yet, which is really friggin' impressive when you think about it. But hey, before we take off, as always, I have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Nye, Omner Garamond, Opinionated Slime, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Tristan, and Veridin. But now I am actually gonna go, so if you enjoyed today's video, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you're feeling stressed out today, then you go make yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.